Music festival season is officially upon us, so today we're going to be breaking down 25 different festivals that are happening across the United States. We're going to break down the lineups, and we're going to see which ones are the best. What's up, y'all? I'm Devon here again for Obligatory. We do a weekly music news segment on this channel every single Friday. Today is March 29th. 2024. Normally in these videos, I have a bunch of music news stories that I've rounded up throughout the week. This week, not really a lot I wanted to talk about, so we are kicking things off with our inaugural Summer Music Festival guide. And we kick things off here with Dreamville Festival, which happens yearly in Raleigh, North Carolina, of course put on in tandem by J. Cole and Dreamville Records. And this one is happening just 1 week from now, April 6th to the 7th, with headliners SZA, Chris Brown, J. Cole, and Nicki Minaj. Dreamville Fest does normally have a pretty good lineup, and I think that always comes down to the deeper cuts, the other artists that you typically see, although some years they do have some pretty good headliners. This year, they're definitely following that up with J.I.D., Lil Yachty, Schoolboy Q, Tizo Touchdown, and Tia Corinne as just some of the artists that I would name as ones that I would want to see. Then just a week later is what is always the biggest of them all in Coachella, which is based in Indio, California. This one is a 2-weekend type deal, so April 12th to the 14th and then the 19th to the 21st. Now the hype around Coachella as well as the headliners for Coachella has kind of dipped year after year, but they always have some mega names. This year it's Lana Del Rey, Tyler the Creator, Doja Cat, and No Doubt. And like every year, there's kind of a million names on this list, but if I were there, you would definitely catch me at the Blur concert, Deftones, Faye Webster. One O Tricks Point Never will be there, which I think is pretty unique. I didn't really see him on any of these other ones, and he did just drop a new album, so it's also likely that he's going to be playing a bunch of new material with that. Closing out April, we have the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Fest, which this is a real mixed bag. Like, this name is a little bit misleading. The headliners for this one are going to be the Rolling Stones, which that is kind of a unique one that I didn't see on a lot of these other bills. Foo Fighters, which I did see on a bunch of these other festival lineups, and then Chris Stapleton. We're also getting Anderson .Paak and the Free Nationals performing together, Queen Latifah, which is very, very cool, and then probably what's one of my favorite performances I've seen on any of these lineups in Juvenile and Manny Fresh performing together. But it doesn't stop there. There's like a ton of names on here. Earth, Wind & Fire, Vampire Weekend, The Beach Boys. Again, a really, really mixed bag. Not super consistent, but definitely for me who would go check out all kinds of stuff, this would be a really fun one. We have a pretty good handful of festivals happening the first weekend of May 3rd to the 5th. And the first one we're going to talk about is Shaky Knees, which happens annually in Atlanta, Georgia. This one's got headliners Noah Kahan, Weezer, Queens of the Stone Age, and Foo Fighters with Interpol, Yves Tumor, Billy Idol, Men I Trust, and Portugal the Man set to perform. Then in Sacramento, California, we have Soul Blume with headliners of Snow Allegra, K Tremine, and SZA with Pink Panthers, Dom Kennedy, and T-Fly, Kalela, Doechii, Masego, and Wale. This one does have a pretty nice West Coast hip-hop and R&B flair to it. Kalela is the name here, though, that for me really stands out as not being on a bunch of these other festival lineups. Same weekend, we have Lovin Life Music Fest happening in Charlotte, North Carolina. This one is headlined by Post Malone, Stevie Nicks, and Noah Kahan. Maggie Rogers, the Chainsmokers, and Dominic Fike also set to perform. Then another really big one in Lovers and Friends Festival, which has been happening annually for a few years now. This one happens in good old Las Vegas. It is a one-day festival with headliners of Janet Jackson, Usher, and Backstreet Boys. And I really wouldn't even have time to name all the best artists coming here if I wanted to, but just to name some. Lil Wayne will be performing the Carter 3, Nas, TLC, Ja Rule, and Ashanti performing together, and Gwen Stefani, and again, so much more. With these one-day festivals, though, that have massive lineups, I always find myself wondering like what the scheduling is going to be like. Am I going to have to be there from very early in the morning to very late at night and making a lot of tough decisions about which artists I'm going to have to see versus other really great deserving artists? No doubt, though, I would definitely want to go see this. The following weekend, May 9th to the 12th, we have Welcome to Rockville Festival happening in Daytona Beach, Florida. This one features a lot of heavier guitar music, but also a spectrum of even that. So we have Motley Crue, Limp Bizkit, Foo Fighters, and Slipknot as headliners, with Cypress Hill, Mr. Bungle, Evanescence, and Queens of the Stone Age as other interesting names. Another one-day festival is happening the same weekend, May 11th. This is Cruel World Festival happening in Pasadena, California. And this one's going to be headlined by Duran Duran, Interpol, and Blondie, with Simple Minds, Soft Cell, and Placebo also on the bill. May 17th to the 19th, we have Hangout Fest in Gulf Shores, Alabama. And this one does have a little bit of everything. Zach Bryan, Lana Del Rey, and Odessa as headliners, so a little country, a little singer-songwriter, a little EDM for you, Doechii performing, Nelly, Chapel Roan, Alice in Wonderland. So we also have a bunch of these happening in the final week of May. So Bottlerock Festival in Napa Valley, California will be hosting Pearl Jam, Ed Sheeran, Stevie Nicks, and Maná. So I'm sure you know most of those bands. Maná is kind of a soft rock Spanish-speaking group that's also really popular and really great. You can also see Kali Uchis, Megan Thee Stallion, and St. Vincent here. Then we have Boston Calling, which of course is happening in Boston, Massachusetts the same weekend. Will also feature Ed Sheeran. Then we got Leon Bridges, The Killers, and Hozier with Megan Thee Stallion, Young the Giant, Renee Rapp, and Chapel Roan as well. Then a 2-day festival happening the same weekend. I think this is kind of a low-key cut here. Gazebo Festival happening in Louisville, Kentucky. This one we have SZA and Jack Harlow headlining day 1 and day 2. But it's the deep cuts for me on this one. James Blake, Pink Panthers, Slum Village, V's, Raven Lenae, and B-Nix all set to perform. Sometimes it's really all about just those very specific artists that you wouldn't really get to see so much everywhere else. James Blake, Slum Village. I mean, where else are you going to see Slum Village on any of these? Then rounding out that same weekend, we have TwoGether Land Festival happening in Dallas, Texas. This is another 2-day festival featuring Lil Wayne, Summer Walker, Lotto with Key Glock, Gucci Mane, 3 6 Mafia, and Jeezy. That 3 6 Mafia concert is pulling a lot of weight here. I would love to see that. Then, kicking off the first 2 days of June, we have Roots Picnic, which is a great festival that happens yearly in Philadelphia. This one always has a great cast. This year, it's Jill Scott, Lil Wayne with The Roots, Nas, Gunna, and Andre 3000 performing New Blue Sun as headliners. This one always has a great lineup, at least for me. This year, it's Jill Scott, Lil Wayne with The Roots, Nas, Gunna, and Andre 3000 performing New Blue Sun. And it always has great deep cuts as well. This year, they have Sexy Red, Smino, Cameron, Leon Thomas. And this one I'm particularly interested in, Robert Glasper and Yebba performing together. Also, the World Series of Spades is listed on this lineup as well, which I find fascinating. If I wasn't watching anything, if I'm a little bored, I'm probably tapping in with that. I can't lie. Next up, we got Governor's Ball, which is another really big one that happens yearly in Queens, New York. This one is happening the weekend of June 7th to the 9th with Post Malone, Raúl Alejandro, The Killers, 21 Savage, SZA, Peso Pluma, which that's all pretty cool. I'm actually a little bit more interested in the supporting acts of Alex G, Carly Rae Jepsen, Doechii, Don Toliver, Faye Webster, of course, you know I love her. We have another heavy hitter the following week in Bonnaroo Music and Arts Festival, which happens in Manchester, Tennessee. This one hosts Post Malone, who is obviously on a bunch of these, Red Hot Chili Peppers, who I haven't really seen a lot here, and Fred Again, who I also haven't really seen a ton of here. So I like those headliners quite a bit, but I also like that Thundercat, Idols, Bad Bad Not Good, Fortet, and Joey Badass are going to be here as well. Those are all names that I'm not seeing super regularly on a lot of these other festivals. Then we have Day In, Day Out Festival happening just north of me in Seattle, Washington. This one is mid-July, 12th to the 14th. And this one has a pretty different bill. It starts off with The Head and the Heart, who randomly I have seen before in concert in Seattle. Bleachers, Carly Rae Jepsen. Follow that up with Peach Pit, Sudan Archives, Mannequin Pussy, Men I Trust. And I'm not going to lie, that's a pretty fun one as well, depending on what kind of music that you're into, of course, but that's one I would want to see. The following weekend, July 19th to the 21st, we have Pitchfork Music Festival, which is another very, very big one that has a lot of names associated with it, headlined by Black Pumas, Jai Paul, 100 Gex, Jamie XX, and Jessie Ware. So there's some names there too that not really seeing everywhere else, but they also have Jeff Rosenstock, Billy Woods and Kenny Siegel performing, De La Soul, Grandmaster Flash, which, wow. At the end of July, we have happening in my good town of Portland, Oregon, Project Pabst. This is one that we would love to go to and get press passes for and take pictures and write about it. And if we are so lucky to do that, we'll be seeing Billy Idol, Big Thief performing day 1, day 2 there as headliners with T-Pain, Violent Femmes, Denzel Curry, Jeff Rosenstock, Soccer Mommy, Kenny Mason, and more, which I know sounds like a really random and mixed bag of artists. I'm not going to deny that, but also Portland people are just kind of like built like that. I'm not surprised if that's just someone's music taste. The same weekend, the same 2 days, we have Broccoli City Festival also going on all the way on the opposite coast in Washington, D.C. This one's headlined by Megan Thee Stallion, Gunna, and Party Next Door with Kaytranada, Key Glock, V's, Lil Yachty, and Joe K from the Soul Lection Radio, if you're familiar with that. First weekend of August, the 1st to the 4th this year, we have Lollapalooza Festival, another big one that happens in Chicago, Illinois. And also, I just got to say, Chicago, Illinois has some of the best music festivals that are offered. This year, their headliners are pretty big with SZA, Tyler the Creator, Blink-182, The Killers, Future and Metro Boomin, who just dropped an album together. And those are pretty great in themselves, but it's followed up by Deftones, Leifei performing with Chicago Philharmonic, Sir, Zed, Killer Mike, Vince Staples, and Fortet. And then we have Pickathon, which happens yearly in my backyard of Happy Valley, Oregon, very, very close to Portland, so we can basically call it Portland. This one is starring Courtney Barnett, Bonnie Prince Billy, and Duran Jones as headliners, also with McKinley Dixon, Upchuck, MS Paint, Irreversible Entanglements, and Water From Your Eyes. So this one's always billed as an experimental music festival. It usually airs a little bit more on the indie, alternative, and folkier side of music. Not typically a ton of hip-hop, although McKinley Dixon is definitely a really good one. Aside from that, though, they do usually have a pretty interesting mix of punk music, jazz, singer-songwriter types. It's usually pretty interesting. This is one that we have covered before as press, taken pictures, written about it. I don't think that we'll be there this year. A week later, we have Thing Festival happening in Carnation, Washington. This one is headlined by St. Vincent, Toro y Moi, and Black Pumas, with Earl Sweatshirt, Unknown Mortal Orchestra, Spoon, Military Gun, and Butcher Brown also performing. Something about these Pacific Northwest festivals really mix it up, they really keep you guessing. And then finally, August 31st, this is a one-day festival happening in Los Angeles. Fool in Love is a festival that's going to be headlined by some really amazing legacy R&B and soul artists. Really some of the biggest names you can even think of. Lionel Richie, Diana Ross, and Santana are set as headliners, and it really doesn't stop from there. Al Green, the Isley Brothers, Shaka Khan, Duran Jones, George Clinton, Kool and the Gang, and so on and so forth. This is just another one where I really don't even have time to name all the great names that show up here. Now, again, this is another one-day festival where if I were to go, I would be making some really tough decisions on who to go see, because there's name after name after name here that not only would be a great concert, but is not something you're going to see anywhere else with these festivals. And these are people that don't typically perform super often themselves. It's got a little bit of that once-in-a-lifetime quality to it that I think makes for a special show. I think that's what concerts really should be. They're a moment in time. They are fleeting. They're an experience that you don't get to have but once. And if you're like me, this is definitely at the top of my list. So let's make that list now. What's my top 5 that I didn't have to worry about getting there? I didn't have to worry about paying to get in or paying for anything, really. Just show up and have a great time. I'd have to go with that Fool in Love Festival. For all the reasons I just stated, this is one of the most special events happening this summer. And it's one where I feel like I'd be able to go see this now and pretty much never again, maybe. Then from there, I'm going Lollapalooza. I have never seen Tyler, the Creator. I've never seen Blink-182, The Killers. I would love to see future Metro Boomin, Deftones, Lefe. Then I gotta go Bonnaroo. That one definitely caught me with Red Hot Chili Peppers, Fred Again, Thundercat, Idols, Bad Bad Not Good, Fortet. I am definitely not missing out on Roots Picnic if I have my choice. Every year they post a lineup, I want to go. In particular, I gotta see Lil Wayne perform with the Roots. I gotta see Andre 3000 performing New Blue Sun. I gotta check out the World Series of Spades, bro. Like, I'm there. I would also say I really want to go to that Gazebo Festival. Louisville, Kentucky, never been there. Probably no reason for me to ever be there, except for this music festival. I mean, SZA, Jack Harlow, I could low-key do without. I'm not gonna lie. But James Blake, Pink Panthers, Slum Village, V's, Raven Lenae, Phoenix, yeah, I'm not missing that. And now I get to turn it over to you. What was the single best lineup you saw across of any of these? And if you got a top 3, a top 5 that you would go to if you could, drop that down in the comment section. Also, if you are going to any of these, if you already bought tickets or you're planning on going, definitely let me know down in the comment section as well. And from there, we move on to notable new releases and editors' picks from this week of new releases. So these are just some of the most notable or some of the really good projects that we wanted to make sure we mentioned to you. Of course, we cannot ignore the Beyonce album that dropped today. Trippie Redd and MGK, I'm not sure when I'm going to get to that. I'm going to be honest. But Rock Marciano releasing Marciology recently announced. Pretty excited about that. And we move on to albums announced this week, which, not the craziest week, pretty low key. Next week, though, wow, there's a lot of shit. From Chris Patrick, The Black Keys, Vegan, Khruangbin, Mount Kimby, Vampire Weekend. I'm gonna keep going. Richie, formerly of Injury Reserve, Bryson Tiller, Four Bats, Glorilla, Lil Wayne and Wheezy, Fabiano Palladino. For the rest of April, we're also in for some pretty good stuff. I've been doing my part to hype up the Shabaka Hutchings album coming here in a couple weeks. The Future and Metro Boomin follow-up to the album that they just dropped is going to be coming in a couple weeks here. Still not announced if that's like a deluxe album or a sister album or what's really happening there. We just got a Beyonce album. We're about to get a Taylor Swift album, so pop is popping. Albums for the rest of the year looking a little shorter than we're usually seeing. I feel like March and April ramped up really, really hot. Maybe things cool off a little bit early summer as we get into late summer. But again, just a few more album announcements, and then all of a sudden May could be ramping up really hot as well. So that's all the new music we have on the docket for the rest of the year. And that's all we have for this week of the weekly news episode. Again, thanks for sitting in on kind of a different one this week. Dropping a like or dropping a comment is a great way to make sure we stay in your feed the next time we drop a video. And it just really legitimately helps us out. See you next time. Peace out, my friends. Thanks.